All right, let's go ahead and get the August 24 planning and zoning meeting to order. Before we get started, I just want to introduce our new Commissioner Terry Hall. He comes to us by way of St. Joe. He was on the Board of Equalization, Zoning, Point of Adjustment. Thank you. And he will be replacing Dennis. So our first item today will be to approve the July planning and zoning minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, we can go and vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
All right. Now, our next item of agenda is the staff report. Jack, what do you got?
I'm going to keep this one brief. We've got construction going on in various locations and some new commercial stuff coming soon, I would anticipate. We've invoiced for 3 new buildings at the RV Center, the old KCI RV Center, which is now KC Garage and Storage or whatever it is. They've got 3 new big buildings going, proposed to go in there. Site plan's been approved on that for some time. They had a delay waiting for final plans on a stormwater change that Chuck had to approve. We finally got that through. So now we're waiting on them to drop those plans. We also have the Nottaway Valley Bank building going to start fairly soon. The Richardson Street Plaza Strip Center on the other side of the library or the post office should start in about 60 days based upon conversations I had today. And the second to last of the spaces in Fairview Crossing in that building, the second to last was issued a permit and they started construction for a tenant finish yesterday for a new donut place that will be going in there. There's one small slot left in that strip center. And we still have single family houses coming in, trickling in, not very fast. But we anticipate based upon, at least on what we're seeing on the commercial, that we will at least meet the most recent, the 6-month budget update, that will meet that revenue estimate before the end of the year. So that's all I have. If you have any questions about project, lastly, you've seen the cones in the middle of 169 down by Commercial. That will be a transition area in the median that will be constructed per the MoDOT approval of Fairview Crossing and their new 147th Street entrance. They'll be putting in pork chop islands and all kinds of stuff and lighting and everything. So that should start shortly. The cones and everything are out. The surveyors were out marking it today. So next couple of weeks, you'll start seeing actual construction happening. Once that's done, then 147th Street itself will be able to open. As you know, it's currently blocked there, but it's improved and completed from city's perspective. Just MoDOT won't let them on until they get the protections. And that was all based upon that 4th traffic study for down there.
Questions for Jack? All right, we'll move on to item number 4, the site plan review for 14450 North 169 Highway. And do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, do we have any public comment? I believe the applicant's here. Would you like to present anything? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion from the board? All right. Let's go and vote.
Mayor Boley,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
6-0.
This will be on either next Tuesday's board meeting or Linda, has it been bumped? I don't.
Bumped.
So it'll be on
17th
the 17th of,
September.
okay, so there's no meeting next week that's on? We got a board meeting next week.
Yeah, well, next week. It can be on next week's agenda.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
there's been a bunch of agenda changes, so
Okay, it's
this
on-
one will be on the agenda for next Tuesday night. It's not
No, she bumped it to the 17th of September.
for just the site plan. Okay, That
Oh,
was-
no, your site plan. I'm sorry, that's on there.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, threw me off. Okay, so for the applicant's concern, it will be on the Board of Aldermen for final approval next Tuesday night. 7 o'clock, same room.
Right.
It's already in.
All right, next item is the public hearing. Open up the public hearing for the proposed developments to 400.400, 400.450, 400.570, and 425.090 to remove all provisions concerning fees into the Board of Aldermen's annual schedule of fees. This hearing is now open. Jack, I'll let you have the opportunity to provide some
Sure.
evidence.
Thank you. I almost said Alderman. Sorry. The process for amending the text of the zoning code is such that we present the ordinance, the discussion, the language to you all. And then on the very last of the packet, you'll see an Exhibit A, and that is a draft statement of the Planning Commission as it relates to what the purpose of the actual changes are. This is the three numbers numbered or paragraphs you see are responses to the questions in the ordinance. Are these changes consistent with the intent and purpose of the regulations? Are there any areas of the city likely or directly to be impacted? And the amendment is made necessary to provide consistent and regular board. So all of those things are specifically responsive to the questions in the code. As it relates to the code itself, the changes, proposed changes are simply to move everything that's in the various code sections that say a fee for this or a fee for that or whatever. They all will automatically go to the comprehensive schedule of fees document that the board reviews annually. This doesn't change any aspect of that. That's 100% board authority all the time. This just allows it to happen without coming before the planning commission every single time. We just get the fees over to the board where it's supposed to be. So it's purely a housekeeping measure. For what it's worth, as the last bit of this, all of the items, nearly all of these items are currently in the schedule of fees, just listed. But this will allow them to be, the only place you have to go is to there. If you're reading the code online, this will refer you to go to the schedule of fees, and then we've got the one-stop shop to look for everything.
All right, do we have any other comments? All right, go ahead and close the public hearing. We will move on to the ordinance amending the zoning code. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move.
Motion to approve. Okay, so is there any public comment regarding this issue? No, okay, any discussion from the commission? All right, let's go and vote.
Mayor Boley,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
6-0.
All right, that passes. Jack, will that be on the next agenda as well? Oh, September, okay. All right, next item is the public hearing to rezone 26.79 acres from B3 general business to R1D and R3 at the southeast corner of 169 and W Highway. The public hearing will now be open. Is there anyone that would like to, oh, I'm sorry, Jack, you go first.
Sorry. For the record, the staff report that you have in the packet responds to all of the questions that are contained in the ordinance. You also have a proposed draft findings of fact and conclusions of law on the 8 elements in the code as it relates to when or if a rezoning is appropriate under the code. And then there's a draft of the ordinance that would ultimately go to the Board of Aldermen with a couple of corrections. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for pointing out those typos and stuff. It's pretty straightforward. The staff report lays out each of the items and discusses them. And when you get to the next phase, if you have questions associated with that, we can certainly hope to answer anything at that time when we get to the next agenda item.
Thank you, Jack. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this? All right, we'll go ahead and close that public hearing. Next item will be to discuss the rezoning 26.79 acres of land at 169 Highway and W Highway. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. All right, and Jack, you want to?
Yeah, I'll give you a
Second.
brief synopsis. As identified in the staff report, the proposal here is to take the L-shaped property at W Highway and 169 and convert it, rezone it from B3 commercial. And that's the general commercial, so it's the most expansive commercial we have. And rezone it to a combination of R3 and R1D that allows single family. The R1D designation is one of the new lot sizes that we changed, or you all changed in 2021 to allow for better pricing, home pricing, and save a little money on the maintenance in the future. These lots in this scenario could be under the zoning as small as 50 feet wide. But this ultimately is, the ordinance would be associated with the proposed preliminary plat to identify the areas of rezoning. Part of it's R1D and then the rest is R3. So the R1D area would be the area that fronts on Lake Meadows Drive. And you can see it as phase 1 in that preliminary plat. The preliminary plat is merely for the location of it. It doesn't bind it one way or the other. However, it's important to note that 50 feet wide is the smallest lot that can be, but they can be bigger, which you'll obviously, if you've looked at it, you've seen that. One of the issues to evaluating this is what the existing comprehensive plan calls for. On page 2 of the staff report, we have an excerpt from the future land use map that shows this area and the property involved in specifically is highlighted in black around it. And it all calls for this land to be residential moderate density, which is 5 to 18 dwelling units per acre. This would be 8 point, round up to 1. So it's well within the dwelling unit per acre limitation. It goes down slightly to 7.6 when you add the existing Clay Creek area, which is in this same orangish color on the future land use map. So combined, the whole area is about 7.6 dwelling units per acre for the whole area. All the utilities are available on site. And if they're not available directly inside the site, they'll have to be constructed at the developer's expense. This property has been rezoned to B3 since 1990. It was a long time ago, 91, maybe 94. I'm going blank off the top of my head and I don't see it in my report.
It says 91.
Okay, so it's been vacant as that, and it has not developed as B3 for 30 plus years, whatever. And then, so rezoning it as to whether the rezoning is more compatible with the adjacent land. I think it's designed to have single family detached housing near the single family detached areas and multifamily near the existing multifamily. I think that answers all the questions in the requirements. If you have any questions, I can hopefully answer them. If not, the applicant is here as well. If you want to ask questions of the applicant as it relates to the rezoning. Again, rezoning is not necessarily tied to the actual development. The development will be the next matter.
Any public comment regarding the rezoning? Okay.
Doug Cercioni.
All right. So as far as the board, I wanted to ask a quick question. Do you want to, vote on this as a whole? Do you want to break this out into each individual finding of fact? How best to proceed here? I propose that we just vote on it as a whole.
I agree. I agree.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have some discussion before we
Okay,
go to vote.
please.
First, I'm going to say shame on myself. I was on Planning Commission and on the board when the comprehensive plan was originally presented to us. And I overlooked the fact that this future land uses put this for this zoning. The original Clay Creek was built before we adopted this new comprehensive plan. And while we were going through the strategic plan, which was done right before the comprehensive plan was done, the majority of the discussion when we made the 5 characteristic areas for our community was the further north you went, and this one being the last one, that they would be in the future, single-family detached homes. So I'm going to say shame on me for not catching that error at that point in time. So, that's all I'm going to say right now until we vote.
Man, speak in your mic.
Let's get it going. I was also part of that strategic thing, and I do remember extensive conversations about the further north you go to keep it more pastoral, more rural, and devoted to single-family neighborhoods rather than have a higher density. So I kind of share some of the, I don't have a word for it really. It's just apprehension. I have been getting phone calls today from people in my neighborhood who were upset with the original Clay Creek. And they saw this online, and I've been asked to state, if something's going to go in there, could you at least make it attractive? Because I've heard so much today in the last few days. It looks like an army barracks in there, and they're ugly, and they just don't want to see any more ugly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just telling what they're saying.
If I could clarify, if approved, any development would have to come in for the site plan approval because we added R3 site plan approval, which is colors and materials and that kind of stuff. So that portion of it has been addressed by the board a couple years ago. I don't remember when we made that change. Every year's kind of blurring together now.
Yeah. There was just some concern,
Always is.
on the aesthetic side of it.
Mhm.
All right, we have any other discussion?
I guess I have a question for the two of you since you brought it up. Does the comp plan, does it call for single family the further north you go? Or,
I'd have to read the rest of it. I was really surprised when I went back, when I knew this was going to be coming to us. So I was researching, sorry, let's be closer. So I was really surprised when I seen it. I guess I can understand why it was that way because Clay Creek was already in existence when we drew this up. So it's like, well, do you want Clay Creek as it currently is surrounded by total single-family detached? Did it make more sense for them when they were drawing this up to do this? I mean, I can understand the thought process behind it, but I just know when we were going through that strategic plan, the discussion with those that was there was very adamant overall that this stayed single-family detached going forwards.
That's my recollection too. That really is.
I can't doubt, that's what it was in the north character area. That's what we're talking about,
Mhm.
the character areas.
Everything else was supposed to
Yeah.
go south.
The-
I know we discussed not doing any multi-level, multifamily up there, apartments and things like that, so,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
that was the scenario. I will suggest to you, the reason it was dropped from, that it didn't stay single-family detached is because it is currently, no changes are made, instead of being that orange color, it's the bright red.
yeah.
So it's full commercial. And my guess is this was a comprehensive plan suggestion to try and lessen the impact. Somebody buy it and not make it all commercial, but to bring it down to R3. That would be my suggestion as to why or how this happened. I will admit as well, I didn't specifically catch this. You know, our city's 9.5 miles long and that future land use plan map is big. I looked at all of them, but I never studied them until this proposal came and I went, oh, well, this proposal actually 100% matches up with what the comp plan calls for. So I think that's how we got to where we are. The conversation in the North Character area in the comprehensive plan does identify keeping the single family area of detached housing primarily in the north area,
Mhm.
north of roughly 100, what will become 172nd Street. It's currently Pope Lane, but
Yeah.
from that area north.
Yeah, and additional green space was the other
Yeah,
emphasis.
focusing on that. Yeah. And there's the dichotomy in the comprehensive plan as it relates to, and the transportation plan, how we address 169 all the way through town. Since it's our main artery, the most traffic, what that does associated with the number and density of housing or commercial along there and how that gets treated. So we're kind of in a catch-22 scenario.
And that's why I said in the beginning, bad on me for not seeing that in the original comp plan when we were reapproving it, because I was in planning and zoning at that point in time too, and just remembered all the conversations we had, and I thought, okay, here we go. And then like Jack, when I looked at this, I thought, no. And I think that's one of the reasons why we went with the R1B, the smaller lot sizes and
Mhm.
being able to do more in a smaller area. But so I'll be quiet now.
It impacts Diamond Crest and us too in Harbor Lakes and, we're gonna be hearing about it.
Oh, no, I don't. And lastly, I'd like to highlight that this is a rezoning matter. The plating is another matter. So you have to look at it from the impact of the zoning brings to it. So if you don't make any change, it's a Walmart. It won't be a Walmart ever. It's been there 33 years or 40 years or whatever. It's never developed, but that's what that zoning allows.
Yeah,
Way to put it.
Yeah.
and that's what I was gonna mention, I know that, that's kind of what we'll fall back on, right, is commercial. So I mean, that's if we either keep it commercial or we do something that's a little bit more maybe reasonable for that area. Which I don't know if commercial works there.
Open it up so it can be developed.
Yeah.
In
We did-
33 years, it hasn't been developed commercially and
We do desperately need the housing. That's the other side of it. We desperately need the housing.
All right. Do we have any more comments? Are we still okay with voting on it as a whole, or do we want to break it out into individual sections? Whole.
as a whole.
All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Mayor Bowling,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Melissa,
No,
Rob,
Yes.
5-1. Carries.
Right. And this will be on which agenda? Well.
Linda, what
some of the other
agenda is
stuff
this
got-
one on?
17th,
17th
okay.
of September.
All right, next item will be the public hearing for the preliminary plat of Clay Creek Meadows to create a 62 lot subdivision on 26.79 acres. I'll go ahead and open up that public hearing. Jack, do you have some evidence to provide?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submit to you, we've got the staff report that lays out the response to the code in the original packet that was posted online. It included a preliminary plat document that shows 67 total lots, 13 single family, and the remainder being multifamily for a total of 67. Based upon a late catch on my part, actually Wednesday of last week, I identified a few lots that were close to not meeting setback requirements. Specifically on the one in the packet, it's the hard to read ones that I can barely see. Lots, there are 3 lots down there in phase 2 on the little cul-de-sac on the north side of that road that were too far onto Corbin. You have with you now a new document, which is the bigger version on your desk, and it includes the correction. And the correction was made by eliminating one of the lots, making 2 lots, and then instead of having 3 tries there's a 5 and a 4. Keeps the number the same. It just adjusts the property or the setbacks by eliminating one of the lots. You eliminate 15 feet of setbacks between the second and third and the first and second buildings on that original document. And that 15 feet is how much the encroachment was 15 feet. It was a 15-foot side yard setback, and now it's a 30 where it should be. So that was a change as it related to it. It's not a material change, but it needed to be made now so that it wouldn't become a material change later by having to change a lot line if it was a final plat scenario. Included in the documents are the turn radius. It's called an auto turn that shows trash trucks and fire vehicles. This was provided as a conversation point with the fire district about access to the small area in the southwest corner. You can see a private road there that gets access to the 5 units off of Lake Meadows Drive that front on Lake Meadows Drive. They do not have access onto Lake Meadows Drive from this location because of the median involved. So they all have to access off the other direction to the north. In addition, finally, there's the proposed development agreement. Chuck Souls, the Public Works Director, and I worked through all of the utility infrastructure issues, the street issues, the sewer, stormwater, all that. And Matt Denton also was involved as it relates to the parks aspects of it. All of which are requirements for the platting. So we've included all those in there. I would highlight in the parks scenario, there is a proposal. There's 2 aspects of it. The base amount is the parks fees as calculated with everything that we're talking about would be $133,434. That would be paid by dwelling unit number per final plat per the code. However, with some extenuating issues outstanding with the splash park parking lot and a potential trail along city property on the south end, we've phrased the language such that if in the future the city can come up with an agreement with that developer to, instead of them pay us funds, do work to help us get the parking lot made or the trail paved or whatever, However that works, both of those would be options. That would be part of the Board of Aldermen's negotiation scenario as it relates to that. This development agreement ultimately gives the Board of Aldermen that flexibility to do it. There's been some difficulty in the bidding process as it relates to that splash pad parking lot, and there's other amenities going on with it, a restroom facility and all those other things. So they've been trying to figure out ways to make some of this work with the difficulties in bidding. So that document is included as well. It includes a rehabilitation of a detention basin for sanitary. It's called an overflow basin. Actually, I used the wrong terminology. And it's over off of Old F Highway, Eagle Parkway, where the Diamond Crest pump station is. Behind that, through all those trees, is a overflow detention basin. Part of this project's responsibility, if approved, would be to go clear all that out, rework it, and make it accessible again. And that would be then used for what's called peak overflow. In the event of a major rainstorm, DNR requires that there be an overflow capacity of up to 4 times the amount of flow that the houses all combined can put out in an hour. You have to do it for a 2-hour period. So however many gallons that is for every house here, plus every house in Clay Creek and every house in Diamond Crest and every house in Lake Meadows, all of that waste times 4. You have to have enough flow storage so that during a peak storm scenario, that water doesn't back up into houses. It goes into this overflow basin. So they would have to do that work as well as a part of this project. Significant issue that is not specifically included in here because it's a separate engineering report. There were 2 traffic studies conducted on this project. The first one, let me clarify, since this project accesses MoDOT in 2 areas and it's adjacent to MoDOT, on both 169 and W Highway, MoDOT controls what happens on W and on 169, so their rules apply. So in this scenario, their traffic study was based upon MoDOT standards, what MoDOT wanted, and we obviously get to review it and involved with it. After the first study was completed, MoDOT ordered another study with some changes based upon some comments. That study was completed a few weeks ago, and last week or the week before, MoDOT then approved that traffic study with certain improvements associated with 169 at Lake Meadows Drive, and they were limited to striping, restriping a turn lane, et cetera, to make it clearer. It's all engineer speak to me. But so 2 studies were done there. And both of those are online on the agenda here for additional documents. It's just, they're so big, we didn't want to carry them out here, or try to print them out for y'all. And then also lastly, the stormwater studies were done. There was an initial one, based upon conversations about park amenities. There was some suggested changes coming from Public Works associated with potential ways to handle that. That involved another study to verify that the infrastructure in place at Clay Creek is sufficient to handle all of the stormwater. It's more than enough. So the infrastructure on it will be the detention, other than what goes into the storage. There's water that will be stored in the pipes as they drain through the streets and all that. But any excess goes into these 2 detention basins at Clay Creek, both of which are oversized significantly from their current flow capacity. They will accept this flow with no changes. So the stormwater will be the same. The detention basins release it at the same speed as it does now. There's been no experience of flooding downstream from this. It goes under the railroad tracks and goes through there. I lastly think I've addressed all of the issues in my staff report as it associates with this. But main point is put the staff report and the revised plat and documents into the record for you guys to review.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Jack. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to provide some testimony regarding this? All right, we'll go ahead and close this
Well,
public.
There's somebody raised.
Oh.
their hand.
Oh,
Question concerning. Name and address for the record.
Name and address.
name and
Yeah.
address, please.
Robert Bertonson, 403 Lake Meadows Drive. My question is, and you might not know, but it's on the MoDOT report on the intersection of Lake Meadows and 169. We have a turn lane going northbound. Will they create a turn lane going southbound? My question for this is because we had a lady hit from behind turning left into Lake Meadows here a month or so ago.
The current report does not include a southbound left turn lane. MoDOT didn't indicate it was necessary or warranted, what they call warranted.
Even with the increase in probably traffic?
That's the only thing they concern themselves with is what the traffic flow is going to be. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, if no other testimony, I will close public hearing and we will move on to the preliminary plat approval, 66 lot subdivision with 216 dwelling units. Do I have a motion to approve? We have a second.
Second.
All right, first and second. Jack, do you want to offer any additional information for us?
Staff report goes through the ordinance, gives you the information as it relates to each of the items. If you have a question, I think that would be a better way to address this instead of me going through it all. It's pretty comprehensive as it relates to all of the items. Again, the applicant made the amendments we required on the lots down in the south end. Lots 20 and 21 on this one. 20, 21, and 22 on the original, and made those adjustments in accordance with our requirements for the setbacks. Sorry, I just realized I turned my microphone off and pushed it away and then kept talking. We have those aspects in there. The fire department has been able to review this. Fire district, excuse me, and their concern was ingress, egress, access, turns, et cetera. Chuck Souls and my concern were ingress, egress for trash trucks. They've been able to show through their auto turn information that's been reviewed by Chuck and Chief Klein. It works. And that's what the last page of the plat document shows. The auto turns are there. Fire chief was also fine with all the water that's going to go in, and he knows that he gets the second bite at the apple of the locations of all the fire hydrants. We have a standard that the fire hydrants have to be no more than a 300-foot radius to cover everything. So this one is going to have several fire hydrants going in when the water goes in. There's adequate water around. There's a 12-inch that goes up 169 and turns across W Highway there. So there's more than enough water. There will be looping required. There'll be water connected at Lake Meadows. The sanitary sewers will be in various locations. All of them, again, will go into either the Clay Creek or the Lake Meadows manholes that are there. One manhole is such that it sits at the kind of northeast cornerish of Corbin Lane and Lake Meadows Drive. If you drive by there, you'll see a manhole out there. It was in the area designed to pick up this area when it developed. So that's one of the manholes. The other ones are in Clay Creek. Same scenario. They will drain into either the Clay Creek system, which then goes into the Diamond Crest system, or the Lake Meadows system, which drains itself across that field to the Diamond Crest pump station down there. And then they will be required to upsize the pump, or excuse me, wrong project. I've got so many projects in my, they'll have to improve the overflow basin there. There are no pump things. One thing I didn't mention that's contained in the development agreement is that there will be a condition for those alderman members that were, and the mayor, at least you all may remember from your all's retreat, there was a lot of discussion about capacity on the sewer system up north, with currently only of the currently approved platted developable lots, there's only 170 total available for future development. This is obviously 216 units of that. So there is a restriction. And that was when we did that paperwork, May, whenever that was. There's a restriction in this agreement that their final plat that gets to anything over 159 can't be submitted. So they won't be able to develop that until certain work is done down at Wildflower, which we mentioned at those meetings as well. There's another development that's been on the hook since 2004 to do those upgrades. Now we're in it. Once those upgrades occur at Wildflower, that will bring on 320 more units on the North Force Main, bringing it to 490, I guess, units. Anticipated time for that to expire is certainly beyond 10 years. And we fully anticipate the Owens Branch Interceptor, which is part of the master plan for sewer, to take from the plant all the way up to the intersection of the Rocky Branch and the Harborview force mains, which will then open up capacity completely. It will give us probably another 30 years of capacity. But that project is anticipated to be completed shortly before I retire, which is in 2032. So if there are any questions, I'll certainly try to answer them. Applicants here with the
We have public
engineer
comment, Linda?
and
Okay.
folks as well. So if you guys have any questions.
Just reminders, name, address. Thank you.
My name's Doug Cercioni. I live at 728 Spellman Drive. Quite familiar with the Clay Creek townhomes. My son has lived up there for over 5 years. In looking at this, the rezoning, don't really have an issue knowing what it potentially could be used for. The preliminary plat layout, though, it seems like it's extremely more dense than what currently exists in the Clay Creek area. As we know, Clay Creek has quite a bit of green space in there. Makes reference to the 20.49 acres that was originally Clay Creek. I don't know if it accounted for the 2.16 acres that were donated to the city for the trails and park area in their computations. But as Jack also mentioned, the 169W is our northern gateway for the comprehensive plan. Don't know if there's any plans to have anything on that corner of W 169 for greeting to the city. You also mentioned about the corridor up 169 where comprehensive plan talks about the buffer zone between 169 and any housing beyond that. Additionally, with Clay Creek, there's a buffer zone between it and Diamond Crest. The preliminary plot here doesn't show any buffer zone between the multifamily units and the single family units to the south. Don't know whether that would be something that could be possibly worked in. I know my son being there as long as he has, there's been different issues over the years between people in Lake Meadows and Clay Creek with noise, et cetera. I think some of us, we have that in all our neighborhoods to one degree or another, but it's just some of the items in looking through this that I noticed that felt needed to be brought up. One of the other things I noticed was Jack had already addressed the discrepancies, where at one point it said 62 units, one point said 66, and the other had 67, but he addressed that. So other than that, thank you.
And I apologize for that. That was just so many things going on, trying to keep it all moving forward. So the bottom line is it is 66. I got that right finally.
66 or 67?
It's 66 because the 67th one was the one that got pulled out with the changes to the most recent version. There was lots 20, 21, and 22 that had to adjust. One lot dropped. And instead of having 3 3s, we have a 5 and a 4. And the number that got pulled was the one at the end, so they had to renumber the whole thing.
More comments? Last chance for comment, anybody? All right, now move to discussion. Discussion.
I do. Happy to discuss. And I visited with Jack the other day and he explained to me why, like when I look at the plat, there's that 5-unit multifamily that's on Lake Meadows to the left of lot 1 of the single family detached. And I wondered why that wasn't still a single family detached. And Jack explained to me, well, you couldn't have a driveway that close to the intersection of 169 and Lake Meadows. It's just couldn't be. So then I asked
Yeah, just so it was the median
the median,
in Lake Meadows.
okay,
Where the sign's at.
where the
Yeah,
signs
the
at.
signs at and all that.
So my question to the developer would be, when I was talking with Jack, I made the comment to him. So my question to you is, could that still not be changed to single family detached with the R1D, but them having entrances off of that Clay Creek Drive where they could come in on that north side? So that way it's consistently all single family detached along Lake Meadows.
And if you can just state your name and address we have for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, Mike Kellum, 1737 McGee Street, Kansas City, Missouri. We had a lot of conversation over what we were going to do there. And one of the things, obviously the access restrictions for single family, and then also creating some uniformity in the neighborhood. We felt like if we were to put a single family development or a single family home there, it would create a difference in character from the rest of the neighborhood. We also felt like a rear access like that, situating the home would create another issue. It could be done, but we didn't feel like it was the best avenue forward. And we wanted to make sure that we were having consistent development standards throughout the multifamily and completely separating the single family as much as we could from that multifamily feel. So just having consistent character in the design.
Okay, so my next question would be, if it's going to have to stay the R3,
Mhm.
could you lower it from 5 to 2 or 3 instead of 5 there on that corner?
That's something we could look at. We were simply just trying to provide a good option and utilize the ground that we had available there. We're not opposed to taking a look at that, but it just depends on kind of,
It's money.
well, I mean, it's that,
Right.
but it's also just trying to, what does it look like from a neighborhood characteristic? Seeing what we could accomplish there. I'm not opposed to being able to discuss it. We could talk with staff on that as well.
I just think a 5 there is totally inappropriate when you have the single family right next to it that you're building.
And we understand the apprehension behind the two uses. And I think there's obviously we'll comply with every building code, zoning code, and community appearance codes or code enforcement to make sure that we provide appropriate buffers. And I think that's something we can do here too, whether we drop the units or don't, based on what we can work out with staff. We'll make sure that it meets that and addresses the apprehension that we have around some of the design characteristics. So we certainly hear that. We've taken that into consideration as well. So I appreciate the concern around that for sure.
Thank you.
If I may, to highlight, that would be something that could be discussed at the site plan standpoint.
Okay.
That's when the buildings and the look and the appearance issues that Mike just identified would be what it looks like, what the
Yeah.
buildings look like, et cetera.
If that's kind of something that is a consensus, to change, then yeah, that could definitely, they'll at least know about it when they do that final plan
Well,
to
I
us.
guess you're forewarned then.
We appreciate that.
2 cents into, I agree
Yeah.
with Melissa. It would be nice to have that drop to a 2.
Okay.
Max of 3, because that, you've got a lot 1 there with a single family, and a single family usually doesn't, it's not terribly compatible with the multifamily. I don't have a problem with multifamily.
Mhm.
But when you've got a single family right next to 5 units, that lot 1 right there is gonna be a little,
Yeah, we're happy to take a look at it. I think that there's things that we can look at and continue to review it, and we'll take the heads up today, and we'll take a look at it. We'll work with staff. We'll see what we can do from a design standpoint and what the
And what
unit.
the buffer is between the two.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we can
Right.
provide, if we can provide a good, consistent, nice buffer that will alleviate some of those concerns, then, we can look at the unit number that's tied to that as well, with, with a greater buffer. And we'll just be able to take a look at it, and we'll bring it back and we can talk through it. That's one thing that we want to do. And I think we've had a great experience with staff, so we appreciate that. But we've been able to talk through this step by step, and we'll continue to do that. So.
I would highlight, it would not require a rezoning because you can build single family on R3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
You have one more?
Green screen for cars turn into like meadows, so the headlights don't spray into the multifamily units. Kind of screens that single house on the end from anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand that. Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we can look at from a site development. What are the options there? Obviously, our commitment is we want to put a good quality development in there. We also want to provide, good quality housing, and however we can effectively do that, that's what we're going to do. So, we can take a look at it. We can take a look at all the suggestions that are here. We can come back to the site plan, and we can work with staff and the commission here and determine what the best route is for that ground.
I might make one more suggestion, and I know this has nothing to do with the preliminary, but I have recently met several retirees who live in Clay Creek, and they would very much like to see something on a single level. So maybe consider having some of these units not be 2-story, but single story for retirees who would like to be there.
Understood. And I think some of that, we'll create the lots, and I think we'll look at the elevations, but I think there'll be some good attractive options for everyone to enjoy. Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all.
Does anyone else have any other discussion?
I do.
Melissa, please.
Probably a question more for Jack at this point. So I read through the agreement. Do we discuss that now or is that later?
No, that's all part of this.
Now?
Yep, just
Okay,
have the
I would
conversation.
like to discuss the parking lot for the park, where it's in here that we may agree in the future to something. I would really like to see that more concrete. The parking lot over there for the playground and the splash pad.
And ultimately, it comes down to a couple of things as it relates to that, and that is how much money it's going to take to do it and how much work can we get done. I can tell you now that the amount of money that they're required to pay will not pave an entire parking lot and do all the work.
Well, if we can come to an agreement together and put that in here would be great.
Oh, yeah, I understand where you're at. We can certainly address it. And that's the hope, to be quite frank, in speaking with the developer. If they can come in and do some of the grading work to get it ready for a parking lot and then pave some of the stuff down south to have the linkage on the city property, whatever we got to do to get it from their perspective, they know they're paying $134,000 or whatever, no matter what. And when they pay it becomes a function later as the final plats go. If they can do it with work, since they're in this work business, my guess is that they're interested in that. We had that conversation last week specifically, but without having definitive, here's where we're going to end up, we couldn't really do anything more than it is an option for the city to request that. And like I said, they're fine with that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Jack, I have a question regarding traffic studies.
Yes.
200 plus units, roughly 400 to 800, once fully developed, that's what, 400 to 800 additional vehicles going up and down 169. When MoDOT does a traffic study, do they look at the impact of not just 169 and W, 169 and Lake Meadow? Do they look at everything from 435 up?
No, they don't go that far. They would do it probably within a half a mile or thereabouts. MoDOT has their own counts, so they know what traffic is southbound, northbound, on both north and south of W, plus they know what's coming out of W. All of those, to be quite frank, if I was a betting man going in, I would have assumed MoDOT would have required a bigger turn lane for right turns at W. That wasn't even close to their warrants. Their focus was at Lake Meadows in that intersection, because if you've been there and you've seen it, there's two lanes that go up and then you bump over and there's a right turn lane, and then there looks like a full nother lane over there. Part of their requirements will be to move that right turn lane over. I suspect, I haven't seen, there's obviously, it's subject to a MoDOT construction permit and design and all that, but I suspect they'll have something similar to what you see at the northbound right turn lane at 188, where you got a turn lane separated with a hashtag, patch
A
to,
barrier,
yeah, it'll be a visual. It won't be, it won't be a bump or anything. It'll just be there to separate the traffic a little more. But they didn't require a left turn lane or southbound or anything, which was,
Nothing on W either, that-
yeah,
just to
no,
confirm.
So do you,
The only entrance is right there on W to Clay Creek. I mean, that's.
well,
Entrance.
well, Lake Meadows Drive and both of them will have access to both now.
Okay.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think it'll leave, that's looking at it, having the road connected,
Yeah.
people won't have to go out to 169 to get into Lake Meadows. They can go from W through if they needed
Yeah.
to also. But it also
That-
alleviates it if there's an accident at W
Right.
169.
Well, that's the other aspect of it. Lake Meadows had it was originally proposed to go all the way to 188th Street. It was very massive, and all the way over to Old F Highway, Eagle Parkway now. And there were several other ingress egress points. Because of the way it developed, and then, the wheels fell off in 2008. They've not moved forward. Ordinarily, for example, at Grayhawk, their next development phase has to put in another entrance, because currently in Lake Meadows, there's probably I don't even, off the top of my head, I don't remember the number, but I think it's 180 or so houses with just the one entrance. And code ultimately caps, if this was to be a new development, if you only have one entrance, you're limited to 30 lots. But because of phasing, it allows you to do it in this fashion. This actually then opens up a secondary entrance. It-
Lake Meadows and Clay Creek will go off W then.
Yep, they have the ability to go that way. So if there's a snafu at 169 in Lake Meadows, traffic snarl of some kind, an accident or whatever, and the road has to close, it doesn't mean everybody in Lake Meadows just has to sit there.
Well, also getting at Eagle Heights from Lake Meadows, you have to go north or south, and now they wouldn't have to go out onto the highway to
Yeah,
go up to W.
Yep.
Because Grayhawk's eventually gonna have 3 entrances, right?
yes, Grayhawk will eventually have 3. They just have to do their next entrance at their next phase.
Yeah.
It sounds like the majority of the traffic though is gonna get right there on W.
I don't think that's where they estimated in the traffic study, but people are going to go where they go.
That's true. That's true.
it's
There-
fun trying to get on W now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about.
Off W. Getting on W is easy. Getting
No,
on-
No,
when
it's
you
not.
live in the subdivision, it's not easy to get on.
Oh,
W.
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about trying for the existing places.
Yeah,
everybody to
during
get
the
on
peak
W.
hour period, which is probably
All
in that
day.
area, it's
All
from
day.
6.
It
all
is pretty
day.
much, especially during boat and camper season. That's
Yeah.
like, oh Lord.
Yeah.
Well, when they did the traffic study for the original Clay Creek, my understanding was they picked a Tuesday and Wednesday morning, like at 9 o'clock. So it was after all the commuter traffic. So do you know when they actually went out and how they actually did the traffic study for this additional?
They
road?
did whatever MoDOT told them to do. I couldn't tell you.
You don't
I didn't-
know.
I don't know.
But that's.
'Cause they do
what
the
we know.
counts.
That's what they did
Yeah.
last time. So it was.
Now, I will tell you, MoDOT generally tells them when they want them done.
Mhm.
So I don't know, when that is, but I couldn't tell you when it was done.
Well, that's fine, but I can just tell you, living there and trying to get out onto W now, Monday through Friday, and then when you add the lake traffic on the weekend, it's atrocious now.
Jack, following up on that, at what point in your experience, or if you were a betting man, are we looking at traffic lights?
It wasn't even close,
Really?
according to MoDOT's number, yeah. Barely met it at 169 in Richardson.
Yeah, we dropped quite significantly from 92.
And yeah, when you get north of downtown and this Main Street stuff, the traffic numbers are about 1/3 of what they are down there. Cause they've got all the other roads picking up, down there, they're at 21,000 probably. Up here, it's probably 7 or 8,000. And that's average AADT numbers, which is north-south average per day.
But this development, I mean, it's gonna even increase those numbers somewhat too. 'Cause
Well,
you're gonna
and
have
that's-
much more traffic coming in and out of town. He's mentioned 435. I mean, we're still gonna have a lot more
Absolutely.
ads for sure.
And that's part of the traffic, yeah, but that's part of the traffic master or the transportation master plan statement of ultimately getting parallel stuff, one over on the east side of the 169 and one on the west side of 169. Currently kind of have-ish one on the east side with Wise and Tillman that go down into Virginia that take you all the way through. Nothing on the other side. There's nothing, and so it's an effort to give you north-south access points other than 169. We've been aware of that as an issue. The other thing is on the north side, you've got County Line Road on the west side and you have Eagle Parkway on the east side that take some of that. But part of that is problematic, and that's the other aspect of the transportation master plan. We need more east-west points to get to 169 off of it. And we don't, you have the I don't know if it's Owen or if it's Highland, but the last road there, right there, as you get out of when the road narrows.
That
in
would be
downtown,
Owens.
It's Owens. So from Owens to 180th Street is the next ability to go all the way to the east. And then 188th and then all the way up to W to get all the way through for all that traffic. So that's the scenario.
So we need Pope Lane.
Yeah.
172nd.
Yeah. Yeah.
172nd is
Yeah.
Pope Lane.
Yeah. And that's
It's only
part of
about
the
100
reason those
feet,
things
so-
are put off into the future CIP stuff is those are the things that are going to need to happen in 5, 10, 15 years or however. I can tell you with the lake as its traffic, it's still pulling 1.4, 1.5 million visitors. That puts a strain on all of our stuff. And it makes it even more difficult from a traffic standpoint. We can keep the roads okay, but the rest of it gets more difficult when we just can't keep up with traffic. So more alternative routes are the key. And to bring it back to this, that's what the extension of Corbin does. And there was no small, it wasn't a surprise or a fluke that the Corbin on the north side in Clay Creek lines up exactly with the Corbin down south. That's always been the intent, even with the original Lake Meadows stuff.
Yeah, because that went through, you could hit North Main and then you're getting closer.
Yeah, the plan was to bring it all, to
Yeah.
go on over.
At least you can drive North Main now without losing a car.
Although you may It's going to be fast traffic for a while, by the way, but now that there are no giant potholes or roll-offs there, people will be speeding down Main Street. That'll be the next complaint.
All right, do we have any further discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Mayor Bowling,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Melissa,
No,
Rob,
Yes.
Linda, when's
Bye.
this one on the agenda?
17th
17th of September.
September.
Okay.
All right, looks like our next item is to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right,
Didn't have to ask for a second on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
all those in
There was
favor?
no eyes on that one.
Aye.
Aye, let's go.
The 17th.